In this class, I am going to discuss the basic problems of an economy. In one of the classes, we already discussed about scarcity and choice. And it is the problem of scarcity and choice which gives rise to some problems that all economies face. We already seen that resources are scarce, but these scarce resources can be put to alternate uses. Hence, this problem is a basic one in economics, and this basic problem gives rise to many questions. Okay, and these questions have been referred to as the basic problems of economics. And here now we are going to discuss about these basic problems. The first basic problem of an economy is what to produce. What to produce. Okay. The problem of what to produce is, it can be again divided into two parts. One, the essential commodities or necessary commodities. Second one, the capital goods or the consumer goods. And the essential and essential commodities and luxury commodities means the market may often decide to produce those commodities which has the greatest demand. But the economic system has different types of constant parts. Some people may not have enough purchasing power. Their purchasing power may not be reflected in market demand. At the same time, some people may have huge purchasing power and they may be able to dominate market demand with their purchasing power and shadow the people with lower purchasing power. So the economy faces the problem of what to produce. It can decide to produce those commodities which satisfies the most basic needs, and also it can also produce those commodities which cater to the needs of the rich sections of the people. Okay, so the problem that economy faces is whether to produce bread or cars. Okay, if it chooses to produce bread, then it is addressing the problem of masses. Whereas when it chooses to produce cars, it is addressing the problem of only those people who can afford to buy cars. A related choice is between breads and bombs, quite rhetorical in nature. Whether to produce breads which caters to the basic needs or to produce bombs which protects the country from foreign aggression. In fact, both these are needed, but in some proportion. Okay, so this is one of the basic problems that an economy addresses. The second question related to what to produce is a choice between consumer goods and capital goods. Consumer goods are those commodities which instantly satisfies consumer demands, whereas capital goods are those commodities which are used for further production. But keep in mind that some consumer goods may be durable in nature, and so they may not only give instant gratification but also give you gratification in the future as well. So the second related aspect with regard to what to produce is a choice between consumer goods and capital goods. The second question, the second basic problem that the economy faces is with regard to the technique of production or how to produce. Once the question of what to produce has been addressed or solved, the economy has to decide what technique has to be used in producing commodities. In economic theory, normally there are two methods of production. One is capital intensive production, second one is labor intensive production. In capital intensive production, the relative proportion of capital will be higher, and in labor intensive production, the relative proportion of labor will be higher. Okay, this capital and labor means they are two factors of production. Capital means production techniques using big machines which requires relatively less amount of labor, whereas labor intensive techniques refer to those production techniques which use relatively more labor and less capital. So the nation or the economy has to decide which of these production techniques has to be adopted. In adopting any one of these production techniques, it has also to look at the availability of resources. If a nation is comparatively endowed with the labor resources, then obviously it has to employ labor intensive techniques in production of the commodity. And when it is relatively more endowed with capital resources, then it will have to use more capital intensive production techniques, because it is the most available resources it is the resource that is available in plenty in that country, and therefore it naturally will be cheaper, and also more people will be depending on the returns from these factors. For example, in a country like India, where the population is quite high, the question says that, or the answer to the question will be to use more labor intensive techniques of production. But in a modern economy, such a blanket answer will not be suitable, because there will be parts of the economy which can use capital intensive, there will be parts of the economy which needs highly capital intensive production techniques, whereas there will be parts of the economy which use highly labor intensive techniques of production. But normally we say that a labor abundant nation should use labor intensive techniques of production, and a capital abundant nation should use relatively capital intensive techniques of production. Okay, because we know that in India almost 50% of the people depend on agriculture, and so any sort of development which ignores agriculture is going to undermine the interest of these 50% of the people. And similarly, when the labor resources are available in plenty, and you are not producing using these labor resources and using the scarce capital resources to produce the commodity, you are not only ignoring your strengths but also ignoring the needs of the labor that is available in plenty. So the answer to the question depends upon resource availability or resource endowment. The third question or the third basic problem is for whom to produce. For whom to produce. That means the ultimate beneficiaries of the production. Ultimate beneficiaries of the production. For whom to produce. Okay. It also depends. It also has two parts. Okay. The first part is for those people who have huge purchasing power, or for those people who do not have purchasing power. Or it can also depend upon whether to produce for the present generation or for the future generation. Okay, if you are producing for those people who do not have enough purchasing power, then mostly they will be requiring those commodities which are basic in nature, like health, education, food related sectors. So if you are concentrating on the aspirations of those people who are less purchasing power, then concentration should be given on such areas like food production, food agriculture, food processing, then health, hospitals, medical facilities, also basic education. Okay, so these areas will be addressed. And if you are going to address the demands of those people with purchasing power, then you will be producing white goods which are luxurious in nature and demanded by people who have more purchasing power. Okay, so this is one part of the question. Second part is whether to produce consumer goods or capital goods. Production of consumer goods is normally meant for the current generation, and so it will be addressing the problem of the current generation. And production of capital goods will address the demands of the future generations. Actually, if you are giving more attention to the current generation, then more consumer goods will be produced, but this will reduce the productive capacity of the economy for the future, and the future generations may suffer. At the same time, if you are saving more and investing for future production, then the demands of the current generation will suffer. So there should be a balance between production of consumer goods and capital goods. Okay? So this is the third basic problem that an economy faces, whether to produce essential commodities or to produce for the poor people or without purchasing power, or for those who have purchasing power, or for the current generation or for the future generation. Okay. Then the fourth question is the allocation of resources. How to allocate resources? How to allocate resources? How to allocate resources? There are certain methods of resource allocation. There are certain methods of resource allocation in an economy. One is through the means of market. Second one is through centralized procedure, or it is also called like command economy. And the third one is through a mixed system, where parts of the economic system operates under the market, under the guidance of the market, and part of the economic system operates under command nature. Okay. So let's examine each one of these. First one is market oriented economy, in which market decides how to allocate the resources. For example, if you have a certain amount of labor and capital, the market will decide what portion has to go for primary sector or agriculture, what portion has to go for secondary sector or tertiary sector, or for the production of luxurious goods. And market allocates these resources. Market allocates these resources based on the market demand. So if more demand comes for a particular commodity, then market will automatically allocate the resources to produce according to the demand pattern. Okay. So market does not have any partiality. It is not biased. Okay. If it is biased, it is only biased towards greater demand, or from whose part comes greater demand. It will address the production aspirations of these people who have greater demand or greater purchasing power. Okay. Second one is a command economy, in which a centralized authority determines what to produce. Such a system often happens in socialist or communist economies, and under this system there will be a centralized agency like a planning commission or a ministry under the central government, which decides what to produce, or how to produce, how to allocate resources, what amount of resources have to go to the production of one commodity, and what quantity of resources have to be diverted to the production of another commodity. So this question of resource allocation is done by a single agency. So it is the centralized procedure, unlike the market. Market is almost decentralized, and market economy is also named as a capitalist system, in which the free play of demand and supply determines the prices, and this price gives signals as to the production. Okay, so what is the major difference between command economy and a market determined economy is with regard to signals. In market determined economy, signals are automatic. That is, signals happen through price changes. Okay, how does the market knows that the demand for a particular commodity is more? The market knows it through the process of, or the mechanism of prices. If the demand for a particular commodity is more, then automatically its price will rise, and production of that commodity will become more attractive. So what happens? Automatically resources will move from those commodities whose production is less profitable to the production of those commodities whose production is more profitable, or whose prices are greater. This is how market allocates resources between the different points based on the signals given by prices. But in a command economy, prices do not give signals, and prices will often be dampened. It will be determined by the central agency. So prices will not give you proper signals. Instead, the central agency will decide how much quantity of a particular resources has to go to the production of one particular commodity. Okay, so this is a command economy. It is also called a socialist or communist economy. Currently, there are very few examples for such an economy. The erstwhile USSR used to be a communist nation, but now it has weathered, and there are other, and it is almost following a capitalist system. And you can also cite North Korea or Cuba as possible explanations for a command economy. Okay, North Korea is actually not a communist or socialist economy; it is a dictatorship is ruling North Korea. So actually, the communism does not exist anywhere in the world except maybe in Cuba. So a command economy is almost a thing of the past. Okay, then the third system of resource allocation is called a mixed economy, in which there is a coexistence of market economy as well as a command economy. Okay, that means part of the economic system will be operated under the guidance of the market, and a part will be operated under the guidance of the central agency or a planning commission. Okay, such a mixed economy was in existence in India for a long period of time, almost from the time of independence to almost towards the end of 1980s. India operated under a mixed economic system. Some part of the economy was reserved for government sector, and some part was like free for the private enterprise to operate. Agriculture was entirely under the private production, and some areas were under the public domain. So this is called a mixed system. Okay, usually those sectors which are very crucial to the economy, sectors that are strategic in nature, sectors that require huge infrastructural outlays like hydroelectric power stations, steel plants, nuclear energy, they were reserved for the public sector. Okay, so now almost all these sectors are being opened up for the private investment. Even the railways and the defense have been opened for private investment. So we as a nation have been moving away from a mixed economic system to more market determined system. So a mixed economic system is one in which there is a coexistence of the market and the central agency. Okay, so parts of the economic system will receive the signals from the market, and part of the economic system will be guided by the central agencies. This is called this is how a resources will be allocated. So the resource allocation problem, and this is maybe one of the most important problems of economic system, is solved through three methods. It can be solved either through capitalist or market determined economy, second one through socialist, communist or command economy, and third one is through a mixture of these three systems. Okay, so these are the basic problems of the economy: the question of what to produce, the question of how to produce, the question of for whom to produce, and how to allocate the resources efficiently. Okay, and the answer to these questions will also tell you something about the different economic systems. Okay, different economic systems are the market determined system, the command determined system, and the mixed system. Okay, which solves the question of allocation of resources among different ones. Okay, so that's it for the day. Thank you.